Anuj actually represents a fund which has invested in molecular diagnostic and a radiology company. Sunny represents Sunny represents a Orbimed fund and invested in contract research and a biologic company. And Rajesh invested recently in a startup biotech company. And Atul brings a drug discovery perspective of small molecules. And of course, Shashantu Mukherjee has a global experience of investing in venture stage SME companies in the area of life sciences. And next is Sai Prasad. Sai Prasad has experience in raising funds. Sai represents a Bharat Biotech and has serially raised 3-4 rounds of funding. So we thought it'll be very useful to have him as a panelist from the company's perspective. And then we have Anand. Anand actually right now not in the panel, but I would quickly like to introduce about Anand. Anand has an experience in investing in early stage and mature stage companies, and he's invested in 2-3 companies in India in pharma and biotech space, and generated return of about I think IRR of 30%. So I think we took utmost care to select a panel so that there's a maximization of knowledge from our point of view. Yeah. So I would now quickly share with you the objectives of the panel and what is the delivery that we are looking at from this panel. Yeah, so a little bit about Indian economy and how this Indian economy is presenting an opportunity for life sciences and healthcare. I think if you look at India's GDP, practically it has tripled since 2000. And I'm sure, if India GDP is growing at 8%, whereas our industry, which is life sciences industry, and when I say life sciences, I actually mean medical device, I mean the biotech side, the pharmaceutical side, and the contract research. And I think all those are important sub-segments of life sciences. And I think average growth, CAGR growth for last 5 years have been about 17%. So I think as an industry, we've done phenomenally well. And I think we will continue to do well because if an economy has to grow, I think it presents a huge amount of opportunity for healthcare sector. And if you also look at the life expectancy, it has actually gone up from 49 years to 64. Also, I think this clearly speaks of the opportunity area, particularly for the pharmaceutical and medical device and biotech sector. So I am not going to take too much of time on this slide, and I'm going to get back to where we are right now and where we project that this year we would be closing. Actually, we did this study with CII. My colleague from CII, Vibhav, is here, and we did this study for them, and wherein we projected that Indian pharmaceutical sector this year should be about $32 billion US, and Indian biotech sector should actually be touching about $4 billion, and Indian medical device should be close to 4.7 billion. And in terms of CRAMS, we haven't really segmented the contract research and manufacturing, but if you look at the CRAM sector, we believe that this should be about 5 billion sector this year, and these are all projected numbers for 2011. Let's come to the Indian biotech sector. I think if you look at Indian biotech sector, there has been a good amount of growth, a CAGR of about 20%, and I think the industry should touch about 8 billion by 2014-15. And the key drivers are very clear, and I think there is a huge amount of impetus on the investments, the exports focus, and outsourcing activities. So put together, I think these present a plethora of opportunities for this sector to grow up to 8 billion. But I think this sector has far more potential than what we actually have projected. And things have to, if the regulatory interventions are done in a proper way, we believe that this sector actually could surpass 10 billion in 2014-15. With government focus on the sector, I think the kind of work which government has done in last 5 years, particularly I like to recognize Department of Biotechnology efforts, and I have been associated with Department of Biotechnology for 7 years, and I think the kind of efforts they have done to promote innovation and get risk funding on the table, I think is highly, highly commendable. And they, I have been actually part of their committees, and I've seen that the funding is available, but they're not finding good projects to fund. So in last last 5 years, you would all have heard about SBRA scheme, and they have funded only 92 companies, but where they've received about 500 projects. So I think somewhere, we need to get our acts together. We need to make our projects more techno-commercial viable. We need to get our projects, homework correctly, and precisely that's the reason, we thought that this panel could actually interact and make, whether you raise equity, whether you raise debt, whether you raise government funding, I think the business plan and sustainability for next 10 years has to be kept in mind when you're drawing actually a business plan. And of course, I think the growth also further is going to come from the MNCs that have set up their shops recently in the India, like to name a few. I think Amgen, UCB, Biogen, Genzyme, and Nectar. So I think this clearly speaks of the India opportunity in the area of biologics, and I don't have to emphasize further on the opportunity of biologics. I think you would have seen that last 2 years, the number of biologics that got approved by the FDA are much higher than the small molecules. Yeah. So in terms of biotech sub-segments, I think biopharma continues to lead, and I think it will continue to lead. And the next area is bioservices. Bioagri, I think we need to get our acts together. There are basic things which have not really right, and in order to really capitalize on this opportunity, we need to have good amount of policy intervention. And in terms of bioindustrial, primarily enzymes, and bioinformatics is another area, I think, which has had a lot of promise, but it didn't really deliver the way it was expected to be. In terms of government support for the Indian biotech sector, I think government has done its bit, and from the idea funding till the product commercialization, all that is in place already. And I'm very happy to share that I have been part of all these committees, and I can vouch that there is enough funding available for, if you have a novel ideas, to take it to the product commercialization stage. Where I think banks like us further can probably, or equity funds further can take it up. Yeah. So in terms of investments in life sciences, if you look at these sectors within life sciences which really received a good amount of private equity funding, pharmaceutical continues to be leading. Yeah, and next is CRO sector, then of course medical devices and biotech. But I think interesting thing is that biotech sector, of course it presents a huge opportunity, but the kind of investment it has received in the last 5 years is actually nothing closer to even a revenue of one biotech company in India. So I think it's really sad, but we believe that this scenario should improve as the understanding of the funds increases, as we have more specialized funds. And I'm happy to say, we have been able to gather all the funds that actually have the special focus on the Asian healthcare in the Indian healthcare or biotech sector. So you may not have seen everybody in the panel, but I can recognize the presence of many funds who are all here, including Nadatur Holding Fund. Burrell has some sort of representation here. So I think it speaks of the India opportunity. It speaks of the willingness of investors to look at this sector in a big way. So I think we need to, as a company, we need to ensure that we have right business plan in place and right ingredients in place to receive appropriate funding. I think it's very important to take this sector forward. And of course, risk funding, risk capital has to go up, in order to make this country a bioeconomy led. And of course, from a manufacturing mindset of biotechnology to a research mind of biotechnology. Can we strive to have an Amgen-like company or a Biogen-like a company, in next 10 years? At least IT hasn't done that. IT hasn't produced even a Google of the world, in India. So can biotech take a lead? And I'm sure India has all the ingredients as far as the intellectual capital is concerned to make that happen. But we need to start today. Yeah, so if you look at what are the sources of typical funding for Indian life sciences industry, that I can think of, of course, when you start a business, you get money from family, friends, your own money, you sell some assets and all that. Like the classical example is Dr. Ella, I really admire him. And angel investors and then philanthropic funds. So we have, we have Wellcome Trust represented here. We have Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is invested in many companies, which were more strategic. And so I think in terms of funding, I don't think there's a challenge. People are exploring funding opportunities in this sector, but I think we need to get our business plan accordingly twisted. And in terms of government funding, I think I've already talked enough about it. And in terms of venture capital funds, private equity funds, and of course, now there's a concept of these top 50 pharma companies or biotech companies. In fact, they are launching their own venture